When idealistic transfer student David enters Central High, he discovers a toxic social hierarchy ruled by a trio of bullies who dominate the school through intimidation. Initially invited into their inner circle, David rejects their cruelty and befriends the weaker students, drawing the wrath of the tyrants. When he refuses to comply, the bullies destroy his car in retaliation, leaving him badly injured. Upon his return, David quietly begins a campaign of vengeance, engineering a series of accidents that eliminate the oppressors one by one. But once the bullies are gone, the oppressed students seize power and become just as corrupt and violent. Horrified, David realizes the cycle of domination will never end unless he stops it himself. Massacre at Central High is a nihilistic allegory about the corruption of power, set against the backdrop of 1970s teenage rebellion and moral decay, blending social commentary with slasher-style suspense. In 19th century Serbia, a village is cursed after the locals kill Count Mitterhaus, a seductive vampire preying on their children. Before dying, the Count vows revenge through his lover, Anna, who escapes. 15 years later, a mysterious traveling circus arrives, promising exotic entertainment and erotic wonder. The performers, led by the enigmatic Emil, captivate the isolated villagers with acrobatic displays and illusionary acts, unaware that the troupe are vampires carrying out the Count's curse. As children disappear and villagers grow weak, schoolmaster Albert Muller uncovers the terrifying truth: Mitterhaus's resurrection depends on the blood of the innocent. In a feverish race against time, Albert rallies the survivors to destroy the circus before it's too late. Vampire Circus combines gothic horror and surreal sensuality with vivid color cinematography and dreamlike atmosphere characteristic of Hammer Films' most transgressive works, culminating in an apocalyptic bloodbath of revenge and redemption. In a quiet Japanese village in 1895, Seiki, the wife of an older rickshaw driver, begins a passionate affair with a young man named Toyoji. Obsessed with desire, Toyoji convinces Seiki to help him murder her husband, disposing of the body in a nearby well. Though they continue their affair, guilt and fear begin to unravel their sanity. When the ghost starts haunting them, his spirit becomes a manifestation of their inner torment. As villagers gossip and suspicion mounts, an investigation exposes their crime, driving the lovers toward madness and doom. Empire of Passion is a haunting fusion of ghost story and erotic tragedy, contrasting spiritual punishment with the primal pull of lust. Its lush visuals, eerie silences, and emotional realism elevate it beyond conventional horror into a meditation on guilt, repression, and the inescapable consequences of passion. During the Vietnam War, a soldier named Andy Brooks is reported killed in action, leaving his family devastated. But that same night, he inexplicably returns home, alive but strangely emotionless. His mother welcomes him with joy, while his father and sister sense something deeply wrong. As days pass, Andy's behavior grows increasingly bizarre and violent. He avoids sunlight, isolates himself, and feeds on human blood to sustain his decaying body. The family's denial turns to horror as local deaths reveal the truth. Andy has returned as one of the undead, sustained by his mother's refusal to accept his death. Directed by Bob Clark and written by Alan Ormsby, Deathdream reimagines the monkey's paw fable as a Vietnam-era parable about grief, denial, and the psychological scars of war. Its slow-burn tension and tragic ending make it one of the most affecting horror films of the 1970s. Frank Carveth becomes increasingly alarmed by the bizarre behavior of his estranged wife, Nola, who is undergoing a radical new therapy with Dr. Hal Raglan called psychoplasmics, which encourages patients to externalize their rage through physical manifestations. When Frank's daughter, Candace, begins exhibiting signs of trauma, and people close to him are murdered by deformed, childlike creatures, Frank discovers that Nola's therapy has literally birthed her anger into monstrous offspring. Hidden in a secluded facility, she nurtures these creatures like a mother, each one an embodiment of her suppressed fury. The Brood, written and directed by David Cronenberg, is a chilling allegory of psychological abuse, repressed emotion, and the horror of parenthood. With disturbing imagery and raw emotional power, it transforms domestic trauma into visceral body horror, culminating in a shocking and unforgettable birth scene that cemented Cronenberg's reputation as a master of the grotesque. Blind puzzle-maker Franco Arno overhears a cryptic conversation outside a genetics institute and later learns of a break-in at the same facility. Partnering with journalist Carlo Giordani, Arno uncovers a string of murders linked to secret experiments involving chromosome defects that may predispose people to violence. As the bodies pile up, the pair race to expose the killer before becoming targets themselves. Their investigation weaves through a maze of deceit, betrayal, and scientific hubris, leading to a shocking revelation about genetic determinism. The Cat O' Nine Tails, directed by Dario Argento, is the second entry in his Animal trilogy, showcasing his developing style of intricate murder sequences, vivid visuals, and Ennio Morricone's haunting score. Although more procedural than supernatural, it explores the danger of curiosity and the line between intellect and instinct in Argento's signature, hyper-stylized fashion. Medical student Susan Wheeler begins to suspect something sinister when a series of healthy patients fall into irreversible comas after routine surgeries at Boston Memorial Hospital. Her investigation reveals a secret facility, the Jefferson Institute, where comatose bodies are suspended and sold for organ harvesting. As Susan gets closer to the truth, she becomes a target of the same conspiracy. Fighting institutional cover-ups and personal betrayal, she must expose the operation before becoming another victim. Directed by Michael Crichton and based on Robin Cook's novel, Coma is a gripping medical thriller blending science fiction and paranoia. Its clinical visuals, sterile atmosphere, and moral questions about profit-driven healthcare create a chillingly plausible horror grounded in reality. The film's suspense peaks in a haunting scene of silent bodies hanging in a vast white room, a vision of modern medicine turned nightmare. 14-year-old Valerie lives with her grandmother in a quiet village where reality and dream merge in a kaleidoscope of surreal imagery. After her first menstruation, she enters a week of strange and sensual encounters involving a handsome thief, a vampire priest, and mysterious transformations of identity and age. As Valerie explores desire, innocence, and danger, fantasy and reality dissolves entirely. Rooted in Czech New Wave aesthetics, Valerie and Her Week of Wonders reimagines the vampire myth as a coming-of-age allegory, where sexuality, religion, and repression intertwine. Through fairy tale symbolism, erotic surrealism, and haunting visuals, Valerie's story becomes a poetic meditation on adolescence, power, and self-discovery. Both dreamlike and subversive, the film resists interpretation, existing somewhere between nightmare and liberation, where every image glows with mystery and transformation. Molly, a fragile waitress haunted by memories of childhood abuse, begins experiencing violent fantasies that soon spill into reality. Idolizing masculine power and beauty, she murders men who embody the sexual aggression of her father, athletes, actors, and lovers, believing she's liberating herself through ritualistic violence. As her delusions intensify, she loses her grip on sanity between trauma and transcendence. The Witch Who Came from the Sea, directed by Matt Cimber, is a disturbing psychological horror film anchored by Millie Perkins's haunting performance. Its fragmented editing, ethereal visuals, and ambiguous tone reflect Molly's fractured mind, transforming a revenge narrative into an intimate portrait of sexual repression and madness. Banned and misunderstood for years, the film has since gained recognition as a bold, feminist critique of patriarchal violence disguised as exploitation cinema. Newlyweds Valerie and Stefan stop at a nearly deserted seaside hotel in Belgium, where they encounter the elegant and mysterious Countess Elizabeth Bathory and her young companion Ilona. The Countess seduces both Valerie and Stefan, ensnaring them in a web of erotic manipulation and death. As Ilona grows jealous and desperate, the hotel becomes a trap of mirrors and blood. Blending lesbian vampirism with art house sensuality, Daughters of Darkness reinterprets the Bathory legend as a meditation on desire, immortality, and decay. Director Harry Kumel drenches the film in cold blues and deep reds, crafting an atmosphere of decadent melancholy. Delphine Seyrig's mesmerizing performance as the Countess embodies both the allure and horror of eternal youth. A hypnotic fusion of gothic romance and existential crisis, the film stands as one of the most elegant and haunting vampire tales ever filmed.